luisteren mee, toch? Op jouw livestream.
Hierop?
Of is dat hoe? Ja. Jij luistert niet mee?
Ik kijk af en toe bij vragen.
Oh, ik dacht dat jij de livestream meekijkt.
Ja, komt wel.
Ja, oké. Ziet me niet mee. Prima.
Welcome back on this very special episode of Kempers Watersport Livestream. We're taking a half whaler out on the Westeinderplassen, which is a small lake close to Amsterdam. And of course there's a reason that we're doing that, because we managed to get to 5,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. So a huge thank you for all the people subscribing to our channel. But of course, we think there's another step to take, and that is 10,000 YouTube followers. And in order to do that, we'd like to encourage everyone to join our YouTube channel. And we actually internally thought, what can we do to get everyone to be really thrilled about getting to the next level? And the reason for that being that we have a plan to take this half whaler out on the North Sea and cross the channel to England, and even take it up to London from this area in the Netherlands, which is south of Amsterdam. So again, welcome back. It's been quite some time since we were on the whaler. In one of our videos, there's a reason for that, because we were kind of struck with the 25% tariff in the EU, which fortunately is no longer there, so we're happy that we're back on track. So we're ordering and selling whalers again on a level that we're supposed to. They're sold out for 2022, I'm afraid, but still there's a really bright future ahead for Boston Whaler and Kempers Watersport. And again, we took this, it actually was, between brackets, a Boston Whaler 180 Dauntless. I think it was built in 2002. And we actually imported it from the US. It was cut in half by Boston Whaler, the people at Boston Whaler, many years ago. And we managed to get it here, which, as it happens, was quite a struggle, because the customs were afraid that something in the foam of this boat. So it had been stuck at the Dutch customs for, I think, 3 weeks or so. But we got it here, and we actually already did a what we call Unsinkable Legend tour by taking this half whaler from this place, Aalsmeer, through Amsterdam onto the North Sea and to one of the northern Wadden Islands, Texel. It was a couple of years ago, but for those people who haven't seen it, please do check that video, Unsinkable Legend Tour. I'm not here alone, as usual. There's somebody behind the camera, Vincent, as usual.
Yes,
and
my bare feet this time.
Yep. And of course he brought Chantal, who's on the beautiful Boston Whaler 230 Dauntless, which we borrowed from one of our happy customers. So thank you for that.
No worries.
And also we brought what we call in Dutch het fenomeen, the phenomena, Dennis Passet, who's been working with Boston Whaler for how long, Dennis? 33? 33 years. So he knows all about Boston Whalers. He has lots of experience. If you have a question about the Boston Whaler from 1976, Dennis is the guy to talk to. We didn't only bring Dennis, but we also brought Thijs. Thijs has his own company, started as an apprentice at Kempers Watersport, at the time E.W. Driesen also, working while studying. And he helped us build this YouTube channel, which I think we started around 2012. I checked today, our oldest video was from 9 years ago. A Sea-Ray 240 Sunsport was one of the very first reviews that we did, and since then the channel has been growing and we managed to get up to over 5,000 followers. Now, this of course being a live stream, I would encourage everyone to ask us all about this half whaler, about the area, about the history of Kempers Watersport, about how we managed to get to 5,000 followers on the YouTube channel. What Thijs actually does, I would also like to point that out. He has his own company, Digital Fly Productions. I've worked for him for all this time. I'm really pleased that he's here. He keeps on investing, improving, and making our videos, I personally think, one of the best, at least in the Netherlands. But please let us know if you have remarks, comments, and also let us know what kind of topics you'd want us to bring out on our YouTube channel. But having said that, again, this is a live stream, so I hope there's lots of people watching. And as usual, I hope the audio, by the way, also is good. There's a bit of wind. And of course, there's a Bluetooth connection with the other boat, so I hope that works all right. But Chantal, do we already have anybody watching with questions?
Yes, we have a question from Mitchell. Why on earth would you want to cut a boat in half?
Why on earth do you want to cut a boat in half?
Why on earth would we want to cut a boat in half? Well, that actually is one of the best questions ever, so thank you. I didn't get the name, but thank you for the question. This actually has been done to show how good a Boston whaler is. We all know the tragic story about a huge ocean liner called Titanic, which also was more or less built as an unsinkable boat. That didn't end well, but there's no whaler ever that really sunk to the bottom, because it's impossible. No matter what you do, if you cut it in half, if you shoot 10,000 rounds of bullets in a Boston whaler, whatever you do, it will still stay afloat. And of course we all think, why ever would you need a boat to be unsinkable? Well, of course it gives you peace of mind. It has a lot to do with safety. We actually do know people working commercially and only wanting to go out on Boston whaler boats in rough conditions because they're the best you can get, they're the safest you can get. But not only that, and maybe Vincent can also point the camera at me. I have to be slightly careful driving and using both hands also.
I've got one hand
this
to secure.
Method, this way of building a Boston whaler by using a hull, which is done by all fiberglass boats, but not only just one hull, but making basically a second hull, putting the two together and filling the void in between those two with the special foam that doesn't take on water, is a really special, still secret process with which you don't only get an unsinkable boat, but it's also extremely rigid, stable, and it can really cope with all conditions. Imagine having a shoebox. If you take off the lid, and if you just have the box, it's kind of flexible. It doesn't feel very sturdy, but if you put on the lid, it gets to be a solid structure more or less. And imagine that same thing happening on the Boston whaler, but not only that, also injecting it with foam. I've been on the yard a couple of times. I'm sure Dennis has been there more often than I have. And I've actually seen how they were built. And you immediately get impressed by the way they do it, because it's a great method of building a boat, which just makes it the best you can get. So I hope that answers that question. I think Chantal needs to raise her voice a bit, being behind us with a bit of wind. But do we have any next questions, Chantal?
Yes. Let me see. Is it dangerous to take this Boston whaler out on the sea?
Did you get the question?
No, I've got another. I did not get it.
I didn't quite get it.
Is it dangerous to take this Boston whaler out on the sea?
Oh, is it dangerous?
Is it dangerous
to take it out of sea?
to take it out on the open sea? I hope not, to be honest. No, only kidding. Of course it isn't. Actually, to be honest, it's
Days
been
old.
some time since I last drove this half whaler, and it's strange because I've driven it quite a few times, but it's just strange because there are instances where water actually does get in, even up to your knees sometimes, which is something here happens, to be honest. But I just know, having driven it, and again having taken it out on the open sea to one of the northern islands in the Netherlands, we just know that nothing can happen. I mean, it's been made self-bailing, which means that any water that comes in immediately drains out with these big drain holes in the aft.
Oh, yeah.
So I personally think it may be a bit, well, arrogant to say that, but I think I'd rather be on a half whaler than comparable competing brands which are built as a full boat. And that is because I just know that there's nothing better than a Boston whaler if it comes to safety. So I hope that answers the question. We'll have to make a turn there because the route ends more or less here.
What?
Can you see the question? Or
Yeah, where can I buy the other half?
Great question. The other half actually is in our showroom. We use it as a kind of a sofa, more or less, just to show that it actually originally really was a full Boston whaler. So again, this used to be a Boston whaler 180 Dauntless. I have to be careful here. And the other half actually is in our showroom. Now, I'm turning the boat, but it's kind of narrow, so I have to keep my eye on the route also. That was close. Yeah, but that's to keep this video exciting. But again, the bow is in our showroom, so it's not for sale. But if you want to see it yourself, most welcome anytime. Come and join us to see. Are you going ahead of us?
Oh, it's muddy here.
Bart, we have a question.
Yep.
Mitchell asked if he can buy the other half of the boat.
No. No, I just answered that. Sorry, but no, it's not for sale, Mitchell.
Okay.
But thank you for your question. No, any other questions?
Yes. Which Boston whaler is your personal favorite?
My personal favorite? Well, there's quite a few. Everybody probably thinks that it's the biggest available, for example, the 420 Outrage, which of course is a fantastic boat, but to be honest, I have great memories owning a 130 Supersport, which I took on a holiday many years ago to a lake in France with my family, 2 kids, and we had such a great time there that I really have the best memories of this Boston Whaler 130 Supersport, I should say. A fantastic boat. But basically, a lot of whalers are really nice. I mean, I like, of course, the really small whalers, being extremely versatile, being able to go in small waterways such as this, taking them on a trailer to the most remote locations. That's really nice. But I also like the vintages, which is more a luxury boat with a bit more comfort, sometimes fitted out with a toilet, which can be convenient if you have a family, especially when there's ladies in the family. So to be honest, I don't really have a personal favorite except for this Boston Whaler 130 Supersport. Coming to think of it, the guy to really ask is Dennis.
It's Dennis, yes.
Because I think he still owns his very first Boston Whaler, also a 13-footer. So maybe Chantal, I'm not sure if you can hear it, but maybe you can walk up to Dennis and ask him the same question also.
Okay, Dennis. Bart asks, what is your personal favorite version of Boston Whaler?
Yeah, I'm very personal because I still own my first whaler. And that is 13 feet sport, and it's built in 97. 97, sorry. and it is still in a new shape, but the boat is okay. It is now with its 5th engine, I believe. So so when you buy a new engine, you have a new boat. But for the real Boston Whaler owners, I think the real Boston Whaler is the Outrage series, the console boat, double engine, triple engine at this time, and they
I
are
don't
the most
either.
exciting boats when you have the heavy wave. Sorry?
Okay. Any next
May I-
questions, Chantal?
Yes, let me see. Can you show us what happens if the water comes in?
Can you show us what?
What
What
happens
happens
if
if the
water
water
comes
comes
in?
in?
Yes, I can. I have to warn Vincent because we'll have wet feet.
Okay, okay.
I'll wait just 50 meters or so when we're out on the lake,
Oh,
but then I'll try to get some water in.
and that will be here.
Yes.
Where is it? Okay. Okay, I'm ready. When we
Yeah, well, we're taking it out on the Westeinder Plassen.
Okay.
I'm going a bit faster so that I won't keep
I've
the
got
viewers
my
waiting.
Natural
We may already
speed
get it. Yeah.
on.
Here it is.
Oh.
Hang on, I'll do like this. Hang on.
I'm gonna show my feet.
Hang on.
Right, yeah. Hey, whoa.
Oh, I can do better than this, Vincent. Hang on.
Wait, yeah.
This is what happens. Maybe you can also film this side because this is where
Okay.
the holes are to drain the water out,
Okay.
which actually is a nice feature with bigger Boston whalers. I think starting at 70 feet or so, most whalers are self-bailing, which basically means that you can also leave it open without having to cover it to protect it from the elements, such as rain, of course, because it simply drains out, which is not only a safety thing, but also very useful and makes the threshold to go out boating a lot lower because you don't have covers. You just jump on, turn the ignition, and go out on the water. So I hope that answers the question. We're cooled off with our feet.
Okay.
It's a beautiful day. I think we'll have 27 degrees or so
Yeah,
at the moment.
Ga je hier
Beautiful.
naartoe? Nee? Moeten we er even filmen als je hier gaat of ga je nog daar?
We're going in this way, Thijs. We're going like this.
In en back.
Yep. So, any next questions, Chantal?
I can read
Yes.
it also.
Yeah,
We
you
have a
them
question.
too?
I can read them.
Okay.
Ronald Stel. Ronald.
Ronald, welcome back. Our most famous stand-up paddler of the Netherlands.
Okay. You guys are lucky that it's such a nice weather. Sure.
Yes,
And even with 10 centicubic water in the boat, it's unsinkable.
yes it is.
It's not a question, it's a remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronald.
And we've got from Susanna.
Hi, Suzanne.
What are boats built by Boston Whaler mostly used for?
What are boats built by Boston Whaler mostly used for? Well, to be honest, I don't always know because, of course, they're sold all over the world and used for different purposes. But originally, they were built as the ultimate sports fishing boats, being unsinkable, but also very easy to clean. Walk around, center consoles, so lots of room to do fishing. Actually, there's somebody fishing on the left side here, not on a Boston Whaler, so we have to have a serious chat with him. But anyway, originally they're fishing boats, but I think now the majority of Boston Whaler owners is using it, maybe some cases for fishing, but most of the times just for pleasure boating. So taking it out to go wakeboarding, water skiing, tubing, spending a beautiful day on the water, anchoring, visiting friends, going off somewhere, having a great lunch, etc., etc. So I hope that answers the question, Suzanne. Please join me next time. I'd love to have a nice lady on a great half whaler. That makes me think we're still looking maybe not, but we're looking for the ideal person to join us on this trip to London, crossing the channel between the Netherlands and England. We're actually collecting names of people, so if you think you're the person to bring along, we may even bring a few, I don't know yet, but please let us know. Send us an email, sales@kemperswatersport.nl, and we'll let you know in due time if you're the person joining us.
My email is Vincent@Boomers.
Okay, I think you'll have lots of spam in the next couple of weeks. No. Or fan mail.
Fan mail.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Bart, is there an electric version of the boat?
An electric version? No, there isn't, but we could make one. To be honest, I think electric at this moment, there's only a few boat builders really building boats to go fast while driving electrically. Maybe, by the way, Dennis, we have to wait until this guy with the big boat goes first. But anyway, there's only a few ones like Candela, one of my personal favorites, a beautiful brand, but they do foiling. And I think up to now, that's the only way to go fast in an electric propelled boat. That having said, it's extremely expensive. I think over 300,000 euros for a 7.5 meter sports boat. So it's still under development, I would say. We could actually make a Boston Whaler with an electric outboard. We're a Torqeedo dealer, and I know that there's a bigger whaler on some French lake having been fitted with quite a few batteries and Torqeedo outboards. And I think there's even quite a decent speed in that boat, but only for a short distance, because of course speed requires a lot of power, power requires a lot of electricity. A lot of electricity means batteries, batteries mean weight, etc., etc. So it's still not really feasible, in my personal opinion, to have a boat such as a Boston Whaler go fast being propelled electrically. Having said that, we're actually at this moment installing a sloop with a Torqeedo outboard, and for that application, a displacement boat, simple, small, light, aluminium. I think it's an ideal solution in these beautiful, green, nice, small waterways.
Okay, thank you, Bart. And are the boats child friendly?
Are they child friendly? Yes, they are, certainly. I also have a family, like I just said. I brought my own family on a holiday a couple of years ago, and unsinkability may not seem child friendly, but I actually know quite a few customers who can afford really nice boats, and when their children grow up, they actually buy a Boston Whaler because they just want their most precious thing, their children, to be on the safest boat possible, being a Boston Whaler, because it's unsinkable and extremely solid and reliable. But not only that, child friendly, I mean, there's lots of nice things which other boats usually also have, but still there's always a swimming ladder. But not only that, the ergonomics on a Boston Whaler are always extremely good. It's one of the oldest, maybe the oldest center console boat builder, so you just know that the ergonomics are perfect, and that also is important for children. There's usually on many boats quite a high freeboard, which is this, so that you don't fall overboard that easily. And not only that, it's easy to anchor. Some of them have a toilet, which can be really handy with children. Shall I go behind you, or shall we go to the side a bit? We'll be okay. So yes, they are child friendly,
Okay.
certainly.
And what is the biggest competitor for Boston Whaler?
The biggest competitor for Boston Whaler. Dennis, what would you say is the biggest competitor for Boston Whaler? What the biggest competitor is for Boston Whaler?
I think there's in the Netherlands not so many competitors, but in America for the fishing boating world you have the Ready Whites, Pursuit, etc., etc. The brands are not so known here in Europe, But we have here in Europe a lot of builders with other quality, other pricing. And I think Boston Whaler quality in the console boat, that's the only quality you would need when you have the money, because it is not the most cheapest boat, but it is also not an expensive boat, because you can do a long, very long time with it.
Okay, thank you. I didn't quite hear everything, but I'm sure it was the best answer.
And Bart, how long have you been a dealer for Boston Whaler?
45 years or so, Dennis. How long have you? 45 years. Yeah. So, actually, Kempers Watersport took over E.W. Driessen, which was one of the very first European Boston Whaler dealers, and they've been a dealer for somewhere around 45 years, so a really, really long time. It's one of the best brands to work with, not only with regards to the product, but it's also the whole business, the people that work there. It has a lot to do with passion and experience, I always say, and that is something that you really value at Boston Whaler and you experience as a dealer. But not only that, I think it's more or less pushed through the whole product also.
Okay, nice. And how long does a Boston Whaler usually last?
How long does a Boston Whaler usually last? More than a lifetime, I would say. They started in 1958, and I'm sure there are still Boston Whalers around which were built in the very first years. And we actually have customers owning one which has been delivered in some cases even by Dennis somewhere in the 70s. And they sometimes come and visit us, have a chat, drink a coffee with Dennis, talk about whalers. And of course, Dennis, being a good sales guy, usually pops up the question, isn't it about time that you replace your whaler? And then there are customers who say, well, I'd love to buy a new whaler from you, but the boat is still really good. We may need to talk about the new engine, getting into a new 4-stroke or something. But yeah, they really last a lifetime, not only because they're unsinkable, but also because they use the best materials, really thick gel coat, stainless steel out of at least 316 quality. So they really last a lifetime or longer.
Okay, thank you. You want to sail to London with this boat. How dangerous is it?
I'm not sure I got the question. How dangerous is it?
To sail with this boat to London.
To sail on the sea?
Yeah.
What's it?
London.
Drive to London.
Yeah. Well, it's again, I think it's one of the safest boats you can buy, because we're taking a half boat. Again, I'd like to stress that again. We're taking a half boat to London, and we're not doing that because we don't like our lives or something. I'm joking, of course, but it's because we're so convinced that this is one of the best boats you can actually bring to go to London. And we just like to show that it is really possible to do that. Of course, it takes a bit of effort, and you need to more or less turn the switch in your mind here, but it really works, and it's for a reason that we're doing that. It's really one of the safest boats on the planet.
I've got a question from Vincent. Will there be a live stream?
Yeah, good question. Thank you, Vincent. Yeah, good idea. Well,
Okay.
to be honest, there are some practical things involved with the live stream. One being coverage with the of the GSM network. So yes, I'm sure at least at some point we'll do a certain live stream.
Start live.
The start, maybe the finish, maybe somewhere in between. I don't know yet. If anybody has any suggestions, I've even thought about adding a track and trace system, so actually people can follow us, see where we're at. But yes, most likely we will.
And then I will prepare myself.
Good.
Very
Okay, thank you, Bart. How fast can this boat go?
I haven't really tried, to be honest. But that is not the biggest part of the fun. Have you ever tried, Dennis, how fast it goes?
Without a mic, we won't hear anything.
35 knots? Dennis thinks around 35 knots approximately, but it's not the biggest part of the fun of driving this half whaler. This one actually is fitted with a 115 horsepower, and I think originally this 180 Dauntless maximum horsepower was 150. Yeah, 150 horsepower, and we had that on this boat before, but that was sold, so we replaced it with a 115, which is plenty of course for just a half boat because it's lighter, and it's just not the biggest part of the fun going really fast, but I'm sure it's capable to go really, really fast. We're being overtaken as we speak by a rental boat. We're usually a bit cautious if they're around, to be honest, because they're not always the best skippers.
Okay, thank you, Bart. Can I see the half whaler during the boat show Hollandse Plassen?
Yes, boat show Hollandse Plassen. Thank you for asking. Next weekend, the weekend of June 25-26, we'll have a boat show in cooperation with a lot of partners like Menken Maritiem, Eastloop, well, lots of them. And we'll have quite a few boats in the water, in our showroom a few, but this will certainly be in the water. So if there's anyone wanting to join us on a trip like we did just now and going faster, please let us know via email and we'll certainly reserve a time slot for you. Any next questions?
Let me see.
Shall I go on this boat?
Yes,
to see
maybe that's a good idea.
Gonna hop up to you.
Yep. Yeah. 41 you were, weren't you? 41, huh? Okay. Shall I go away a bit? We have to be careful. There's boats coming behind us. We'll wait until these boats pass us and then I'll try to get some water in again. Any next questions in the meantime, Chantal?
Yes, is it possible to test drive your half whaler?
Yes, it is. Like I just mentioned not only during our boat show, which is next weekend, this usually is in our showroom. And of course we love boating, but we're not taking each and every person who would like to just have fun on a boat, out on the water. But please let us know and we'll work something out and take you on a test drive in this beautiful area.
Okay.
One of the funny things of this half whaler is that we put smiles on people's faces. I'm not sure if Dennis is actually filming it. They're either surprised, astonished, or laughing. And we get all kinds of questions like, are you divorced? Did the wife get the other half? Did you run out of money? Etc, etc. There are lots of questions like that, but we love to answer them. Let's try and get some water in again. Yep. When you get the hang of it, it's really fun. Now I have to be a bit slow to get the water out again, but we'll be okay. Any next questions?
Can you tell something about the... how did you cut the boat in half?
How it was cut in half?
Yeah.
I wasn't there, to be honest, so I don't really know. I know that Dennis was at a dealer meeting at their 50th anniversary, maybe 60th, I don't know. And then they actually cut the boat in half by using, I think, a big chainsaw and putting a special netting around it for environmental purposes, of course, to gather any foam which was left. But it's actually done with a huge chainsaw. I think it's still quite a struggle to cut a half whaler in half, and it actually takes quite a bit of time. But again, I wasn't there, but that is the way it's been done. I think there are videos even on YouTube where you can see it. Yes. No.
Okay, thank you, Bart.
Can we see Thijs in action soon? The drone pilot. Is it possible here? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always surprised if Thijs does this. He usually I'll go around a bit so people can see how he does this. It's always, I'm amazed how he gets this drone up in the air, but even more how he gets it out of the air again. It's really a special trick. And I personally think you have to be kind of brave doing that. Because of course there's propellers turning quite fast, which can be dangerous. But I really think this is one of the nice things of our videos. Filming the nicest boats from the outside. Getting a bit closer, I even felt the wind just now. But yeah, I'm really happy with Thijs Digital Fly Productions filming our boats with this drone.
We will film,
Which actually, maybe also Vincent can film that. This is a great place I love going to. Vincent, can you also film Evelanes?
Yeah.
I think they're called Hans and Anneke. There's actually two brothers selling paling. I think the English word is eel. Smoked eel, one of my personal favorites. When I sometimes have a delivery on the weather's like this, I love taking our customers with their new boat out here, and you sit on a really simple bench on the water side, enjoying a nice warm smoked eel sandwich, while the new owner of a new Sea Ray Boston Whaler or Axopar is enjoying his new boat, lying just here on the Ringvaart, which is this water that we're on, going from, well, actually around as a circle between Haarlem, Leiden more or less, and Amsterdam and the IJsselmeer. So a great area. So I think the drone still is somewhere in the air. So we'll see some footage later.
The drone is in the air.
But yeah,
Where is it?
I will come to you.
no idea.
Oh yeah.
But I'm sure Thijs knows. Any next questions, Chantal?
Yes, Bart, did you already mention something, the story behind the Boston Whaler brand?
The story behind the Boston Whaler brand, well, that is something you really should ask Dennis, because no? He's laughing, yes. He's getting a bit warm, I think, in this great Dutch weather. But I do think Dennis is the best guy to talk to. But maybe it's even better that we invite people watching, at least from the Netherlands, for a cup of coffee or something else. Talk to Dennis. He talks with passion about Boston Whaler. We sometimes say he has Boston Whaler going through his veins, actually. He lives and breathes Boston Whaler.
Okay.
But the story behind a Boston Whaler in a nutshell is that there's a guy called Richard/Dick Fisher, who in, I think, 1954 was building small sailboats made out of balsa, a really light wood. And at the time, this special PU foam was invented, and he started thinking about using it to build boats. So he started building prototypes and all kinds of things. Joined forces with a naval architect. They developed one of the very first whalers, and they took a long trip in Massachusetts, I think it was. A long trip of, I think, around 200 kilometers or so in a 13-footer, one of the very, very first Boston Whalers, to prove how good the boat actually was. And of course he got a lot of attention, and from there on it was a huge success. So now I don't know how many they're building a year, but it must be a couple of thousand, and it's still a huge success. It's one of the most successful brands under the Brunswick umbrella, which is the mother company of not only Boston Whaler but also Sea Ray, Bayliner, Quicksilver, Mercury, Macruiser, etc., etc. But it's quite a story. It's on the Wikipedia, I'm sure, and it's really a nice story. But again, come over for a cup of coffee or a nice beer at the end of the day, especially on a hot day such as today. Talk to Dennis. He can tell you all about the Boston Whaler brand.
Okay, thank you, Bart. We have a question from Joost.
Okay, Joost.
Do Boston's Whaler only come with Mercury engines, or can you choose other engine brands for this boat as well?
Yes, you can use other brands. I think, by the way, we're going onto the lake here. We'll have to try how that works out because there's a bit of wind. But yes, you can have different brands of engines, but I wouldn't recommend that. And why is that? Well, being one of the biggest dealers in the Netherlands, we're really used to Mercury, and that's not only because Boston Whaler is working with Mercury mainly or only, but we just know from experience that they're really reliable, sophisticated engines with a huge range going from 2.5 horsepower up to now even 600, a V12, hugely impressive. But only also cost-wise. I mean, if we order a Boston Whaler from Boston Whaler, it's usually shipped as a whole. So with the engine, it's more or less turnkey. We put the battery in, fill it with fuel, do some checking, put it in the water, turn the ignition, and off we go. It's as simple as that. And of course, then there's a Mercury behind it because, well, Mercury is a Brunswick product. But if you decide not to order the Mercury, you could order a Yamaha, a Honda, or any other brand, which are also fantastic engines, I'm sure. But it's just more expensive because it's more work, it's more cumbersome, and also Boston Whaler just makes it more attractive if you buy them as a package.
Okay, thank you, Bart.
Are we going that way, Dennis? Are we going straight to the marina? Any other questions?
Let me see if there are any questions.
Shall I try and pick up some speed?
Yes. I don't see any other questions right
Won't
now.
work with the audio.
There are no questions. Maybe you go full speed.
Yeah,
Yes.
And then we can end.
but for now, hang on. I'm catching some water. I'd like to already say goodbye because I'm off trying to get her off onto plane, but for now, thank you for watching. Please let us know what other videos you'd like us to make. Leave any remarks or questions below the video. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And let us know if you're the person to join us on the trip to London. Thank you for watching. Hang on. I have to be patient. I'm a bit too impatient. So we'll have to wait a bit until the water runs out. But we'll make another video. I think we have to wrap up for now. We'll make another video, put some because it does actually plane. I think it takes a couple of minutes before it's empty, and I think it's time to finish this video. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you also Dennis, Thijs, Chantal and Vincent. See you next time.
Bye bye.